everybody. I wanted to talk to y'all today about hiring the right business mentor for you. Now, I see a lot of people say you have to hire somebody who's accomplished what you want to accomplish. And I think there's a lot of really great things about that advice. And I think that there's some incompleteness to that advice that I want to share with you today. So first things first, if you don't always need a mentor, actually. And I have a whole other video, and I should probably link to it here. But sometimes you need a coach, sometimes you need a consultant, sometimes you need a teacher, and sometimes you need a done-for-you service, and sometimes you need a mentor. So I'll link to the video where I explain the difference between those things. But I do want to say the very first thing you want to ask yourself is, which of those 5 things is really the thing that I need to help me bridge this gap, right? But I just really want to point out why it's kind of impractical to hire somebody who has accomplished what you want to accomplish, and where it is important, and what you should look for in hiring somebody who's accomplished what you want to accomplish, because there are pieces that are going to be very difficult for somebody to teach you if they haven't experienced it themselves. However, I do want to say, just as a quick side note, there are plenty of fertility experts who have not had struggles with infertility. So, okay, here are my thoughts on this. Number one, in order to hire somebody who's accomplished what you want to accomplish, you have to be extremely clear on what it is that you want to accomplish. And, when you're first starting, your vision of what you want is going to be pretty vague. It's going to be you're going to define it a lot by what you don't want. It's going to be based on maybe some surface things instead of the depth of what it is, instead of the essence of what it is. It may be how you want to feel instead of what is it that you actually want to do. It may be a misdiagnosis of if I get this, then I'll feel this, and so I want to get this external thing. Even an example in love and relationships, right? So if you're I want to get married. I want to get married, right? You may have no idea of what kind of partnership you want, what kind of relationship you want, what kind of person you want to be with. All those things are not necessarily clear for you. So the vision, it typically starts really vague. And so if you want to find somebody who's achieved what you want to achieve, it's going to be really difficult because you don't exactly know what you want, right? So if you want a partner, you want to be married, you could hire any mentor who is married. They may not have the kind of relationship that you actually want, right? Just because they're married doesn't mean that they have the kind of relationship that you really want. So be really careful about that. And because a big part of this is assuming that getting something external will solve an internal desire that you have. So, you want to make $1 million, you can hire somebody who's made $1 million, but if they're in chaos all the time and you'd be happy making 6 figures but feeling grounded, then again, you want to be careful around not just looking at it from the perspective of believing that the only thing you want is this external accomplishment. Okay, number 2, because your vision is completely unique to you, nobody is going to have accomplished it exactly. So the best you're going to get is pieces. And so I think we kind of have this misconception that it should be from one person. But you can get pieces of what you want from many different people. So, right, again, if you wanted to get married, you wanted to have a life partnership or whatever, maybe one person you hire has that external thing that you want. They're married, but then you quickly realize they don't actually have the kind of relationship that you want. Okay, so then you hire somebody who now you have clarity on what it is that you want. You hire somebody who maybe does have the kind of relationship that you want, but maybe they're not quite married yet, right? But they're in a committed partnership or whatever, maybe that milestone before. So just be aware. And maybe one person is really great at teaching, once you're in that relationship, they're yes, go from relationship to engaged. And somebody else is let's go from dating to engaged. They're different stages. I think I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but and one person is okay, once you're in the relationship, I'm going to teach you these excellent, communication skills. right? And one person may not be the expert in all of those different things. So be open to getting clarity on what your vision is, going into the depth of it, getting clarity on those essences, and don't be afraid to make a mistake. I mean, I really think that you're not going to know at the very beginning, so don't go in afraid of getting a mistake. Hire people at the edge of your comfort zone, do your due diligence, hire people at the edge of your comfort zone, and use the experience to get clarity on what it is that you ultimately need, okay? But be mindful, you're probably not going to get everything that you need from one person. But you can, because your vision is unique, and as you get that clarity, you start to flesh out your vision. You're like, okay, I'm going to get this from this person, this part from this person. So I'm piecing it together so it is unique to me and I'm finding what I need uniquely. Okay, part 3, just because someone has accomplished it doesn't mean they're good at teaching it. I will say this from very personal experience. I have had very high level mentors and coaches and teachers, and some people I've paid a lot of money, and some people have been part of my career that I got access to, having intimate mentoring relationships with, most of them, especially mentors, were not necessarily good at teaching what they knew. All right. So so really a lot of the people that I mentored with, I had to really extract from them what I needed. And I saw other people who worked with these same mentors struggle to get what I got because they didn't really know how to extract. And I love, that's kind of what I love to do, is really extracting frameworks and systems and methodology and seeing patterns and things. But I mean, it is, if I have to do it, it makes it longer, right? Because I have to do all the critical thinking around it, but I'm still able to do it. Whereas other people, that's just not really naturally where it's not as natural for them, or and so they struggle to get the same kind of, wisdom and knowledge and tools and skills that I got from it. And so just be really clear that just because someone has accomplished what you think you want to accomplish, or they've accomplished some piece of what you think you want to accomplish, either make sure they're good at teaching it, or go in eyes wide open, like, I'm going to have to extract it. I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to pull it out, and be okay with that. Okay. And then finally, and by the way, just to be clear, I have worked with some amazing teachers as well. And some were, mentor teachers, and some of them were teacher teachers, and some of them were coach teachers, and some of them were, so this is not blanketedly everybody, but I would say that I definitely had some, really amazing mentors that were just not they weren't teachers. And I didn't know that going in, right? I didn't really know the distinction going in. So my expectation was a little bit misaligned with the process. And then the last part that you want to think about is, are they good at teaching it at the stage of your business? And this, again, was kind of something I had to learn because, like I use the example of like somebody who's really good at helping people who are just coming out of a breakup, versus somebody who's really good at helping people who are been single for a long time and they're dating, versus somebody who's in a relationship and wants to get engaged, versus somebody who's in a marriage and wants to have a depth of relationship in that marriage, right? Those are different stages. And it doesn't mean that people can't teach all of them. They might be an expert in all the stages. But if they're not an expert at the stage that you are in, if they're not constantly and consistently teaching the stage that you are in, again, you can either say, I want somebody who is in my stage all the time, thinking about my stage all the time, or, I'm willing to do the extraction of it. Just like someone who has accomplished something but may not be great at teaching it. And I think, because the other thing here you want to think about is like, even when mentors, there's a few different things. So one is that some people, when they started, it was a long time ago, and things have changed a lot. Like, things have really changed a lot. And so, my sales mentors started in the 80s. Like, and so these are, pre-personal computers. And so things were evolving in that industry. And so how they started versus how I started was very different. So again, I had to really think through like what would be right for me to start based on the current landscape, based on the current technology. Somebody who started a business before social media, again, there's a difference between are they thinking about that and teaching it and learning about it and thinking through like, hey, if I was to start today, here's what I would do differently than when I started. Or are they teaching you like, I'm doing this thing over here right now, but I started like way over here. Number one, are they teaching you that, which is completely outdated now? Or are they like just not really thinking about how to teach you at your stage because they're like over here in this stage working on this stage in this technology, right? So there's a big difference between somebody who's using business as an example, right? There's a big difference between somebody who's built a business and an audience and a brand and a community leveraging social media than somebody beginning to build a brand and community leveraging social media. They're very different strategies. You do very different things to get traction. So if your mentor is over here, using social media to leverage this community that they built pre-internet, it doesn't mean they don't know, if they're working with business owners over here all day, every day, like, yeah, maybe they're an expert at it. But if they're not, then you just want to ask, like how much work am I going to have to do? How much heavy lifting am I going to have to do? And thinking through, and am I going to get enough value over here and learn from kind of the trajectory of where you would go? Can I extract that? Or would it be better for me, for somebody who's like working with people in my stage of business, or, closer to my stage of business? But I mean, honestly, like to me, the teaching part of it is like working with people who are being kind of working with people who are in your stage of business and being a good teacher at it. But the bottom line here is that your vision is going to get clearer and clearer. So, don't get overly precious about finding somebody who has everything that you want, because you probably don't even know all the nuances of everything you want. And so the best you're going to be able to do is get the pieces you think you need and allow that to give you more clarity. 2, be prepared to piece it together. You're probably going to need a combination of mentors, coaches, training, advisors, consultants, done for you services. Don't try to get everything from one person. Just say, I really want to get this one thing from this one person, this one piece of my vision. I think this person can really, this 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 pieces of my vision. I really think this person is going to be excellent at supporting me in these pieces, not, pieces of my vision. And just be mindful of the pros and cons of each option and make a decision and get help, and don't get paralyzed waiting for the perfect person or solution because it doesn't exist. Just trust that the solution that you choose is going to give you clarity that you need to figure out what the next solution is. And the last thing I just want to say about this is just invest in help at the right pace for you. So I believe it is better to find somebody who can stretch you as quickly as you want to go, but not so fast that you're feeling rushed, that you feel constantly behind, you feel like a failure all the time, but also not so slow that you feel like, okay, why are we going so slow? There's no reason to do that. So you want to find help that really matches the effort that you're willing and able to put in and stretch yourself to put in. And so as long as it's kind of like on the edge of your comfort zone, you're just stretching yourself at whatever that is, whatever that investment means to you, right? One person, $100 investment is going to be a huge stretch. For somebody else, a $5,000 investment is going to be a stretch. For somebody else, a $20,000 investment is going to be a stretch, right? So whatever that is for you, don't be afraid to learn and learn from the experience, even if it's not everything that you wanted it to be, even if it's not, if you are focused on what am I learning here, you will get clarity and you will figure out what it is that you need next, as long as you don't stop learning and growing or pull back or, and this is really why I recommend kind of finding the edge of your comfort zone. Cause I do think it's easy to kind of burn out if you try to go, if you invest in a $50,000 program and you really aren't willing and able to stretch yourself that much. But if you are at if you want to go bigger and faster and you're like, I think that like $10,000 range is really going to get me to that next hump. And, really challenge me and stretch me there. Even if it turns out to be a terrible investment, you will still keep growing and keep learning, and it will, if you're paying attention, it will give you clarity on, okay, I thought it was going to fill this gap, but it didn't. And what I learned was that in order to fill this gap, I probably need this, right? And yeah, I mean, the last thing is, I just want you to notice I didn't say comfortable, but I also didn't say pushing yourself. Because I think the way people burn out way too quickly is when they start pushing themselves, versus making and the way people don't make any progress is staying completely in their comfort zone all the time. But you can just keep, just like picking up a weight, just keep stretching and stretching and stretching until you hit the goal that you want to hit. But it's unique to you. It's custom to you. It's custom to your own beliefs and money mindset and thinking. And yeah, so I just wanted to kind of give you that framework to think about who's the right person for you to hire. What are some of the things you should ask yourself? And reverse engineering, okay, this is what I think my vision is. These are the pieces I think I need. This is the pace I think I want to go. And this is the person that I think can help me. And listen, there are a lot of, you can get amazing help. And it can really propel you to that next stage, because not only are you getting clarity, but you're actually learning and getting skills too. So my hope for you is that you get that, but as long as you are just here's what I think it is, here are the pieces I think I need, at a pace where you're stretching yourself, you're not gonna, as long as you keep going, you're not going to go wrong. You're just going to get more and more clarity. And instead of seeing it as a bad thing or a failure, you're just going to see it as a learning experience. And the other part, I think, of the learning experience is that you start to learn to be able to discern for yourself who gives you the kind of help that you really need. I know I personally have learned that a lot. And for me, one of the biggest learnings that I've had is finding somebody who doesn't just teach me, let's use a metaphor, but doesn't just give me the fish, but someone who teaches me to fish, and who teaches me the right skills and supports me in finding the right skills. Because I think one of the biggest challenges too is you can have people on your team who are fishing for you, and that's why I kind of chuckled, but you need to learn, what are those skills? How do I find those people? How do I manage them? And so you can definitely hire people to fish for you. But as long as you're learning the leadership skills that are required to ultimately get you the results that you want. And for me, that's been really helpful, is to focus on continuing to learn the right skills at the right time, at the right pace for me. And that includes mindset, always. All right, y'all take care. Have a great rest of your day.